Everyone, my name is Peter Hall.
My name is Josh Hall.
And we just did a screen rant, a recording video where we read and reacted to a screen rant article about Avatar, The Last Airbender, 10 problems with the series.
The author was overthinking it. She's a dumbass feminist.
Yeah, it was weird because she, several times, she acted like she wasn't complaining about what she was complaining about. But,
and then,
she complains about Sokka's sexism, Katara being overly motherly.
And then she proved her own argument wrong by saying everything. She rebutted her own argument while we were rebutting her arguments.
Yeah, anyway, watch the video, and after you watch it, tell us what you think. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Hope you guys like the video, and we'll see you later. Bye. Hey everyone, so we're going to read the article now. It's a screen rant article. It's about Avatar, The Last Airbender, and 10 problems with the series. So we're going to read the article and discuss why the problems listed by this author are really stupid. Collections. Oh, here it is, yes. There we go. 10 things about the series that haven't aged well. The series Avatar: The Last Airbender, a very popular one, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. Here are parts of the show that aged poorly, by Amanda Steele.
A fucking feminist. I hate feminists.
The series Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most popular animated series shows ever, and it still has many fans, especially with the series streaming on Netflix currently. Its popularity isn't surprising and is well earned in many ways because overall it's a great show. It's got a great world, interesting characters, and storytelling, and it was also especially diverse for the time it was made. This show is only like 15 years old.
That's a long time in the world of television.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's still kind of a long time in the real world.
But shows were starting to get diverse casts even back then, even before then. Back in the 90s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, okay.
And shows were starting to get diverse casts even back in the 70s and 80s because The Cosby Show was one of the first black shows.
Yeah. However, while it might be great and progressive, this doesn't mean it's perfect. There are some things about the series that haven't aged well. And while this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with loving the show, it's still worth looking at the places where the Avatar: The Last Airbender fell short. Okay. Sokka's sexism.
We're not even talking about the fact that, Sokka gradually grows out of being a sexist.
Well, she does acknowledge that. Probably one of the most annoying things about Sokka early on is that he's rather sexist. He clearly thinks that men are supposed to be the protectors, while women are meant to stay at home and nurture. He acts entitled and sexist towards Katara, towards Suki, and other Kyoshi warriors. Luckily, he grows out of this and gets a broader perspective on the world. But it is still annoying that he was written like that at first.
It's called character development, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, and Sokka's sexism was a plot point. Every time Sokka displayed sexist attitudes and behaviors, the show made him look like an idiot.
The show also had something karmic and somewhat painful befall him.
Yeah, when he was condescending towards Suki and the other Kyoshi warriors, giving them fighting lessons and stuff like that, they kicked his ass and took him to school.
And he apologized for it later.
Yeah. The episode where Toph gets a makeover. Given that Toph is a female character who goes outside of traditional gender norms in terms of appearance...
I wonder if they're going to talk about Toph's discrimination towards Sokka because he's a non-bender.
Nope. Given that Toph is a female character who goes outside of traditional gender norms in terms of appearance, it was frustrating that during her Tales from Ba Sing Se story, she got a makeover. It seemed like the creators couldn't conceive of a young girl who didn't want to feel beautiful or conform, at least sometimes, to feminine beauty standards. While there's nothing wrong with doing so, it just didn't feel necessary for the characters. It's even stranger given that Toph had recently left behind parents who forced her to act and dress in restrictive ways that she never enjoyed. Well, Toph mentions that she didn't think she could enjoy being girly, but she did. The show goes out of its way...
But she never does it again in other episodes.
That we see.
That's true. But she, as far as I know,
I mean, her normal look is feminine. I mean... It's not, like, prissy, but it's still feminine.
But she doesn't do what she and Katara did, as far as I know, even in the graphic novels.
Yeah, but her normal look... I mean, even though she's, like, tough and, like, stuff like that and acts kind of tomboyish, her normal look is still feminine.
Yeah.
Anyway, she and Katara specifically talk about how it's out of character but enjoyable. She says it was enjoyable for her to do that. She says she doesn't normally like doing stuff like that, but she feels girly and she likes it.
The segment where she and Katara go get makeovers, though, isn't one of my favorites. I mean, I do enjoy Soph trolling the spa workers, and I do enjoy them getting revenge on those bratty teenage girls. Like,
oh yeah,
Toph like earthbends a hole in the bridge, and then Katara tidal waves them away.
Yeah, that was funny. Anyway,
tidal waves.
Lack of diverse voice actors. This point might not be in the actual story content of the series itself, but it's worth talking about as it points to broader conversations about representation in media. While all the characters in The Last Airbender clearly draw on a variety of real-world Asian and Inuit cultures, most of the main voice actors weren't even from those cultures. There are some notable exceptions and instances of diverse casting, however. While the world may be fictional, it would have been a great opportunity to give many minority actors and actresses roles.
It's a cartoon.
This is also something that The Legend of Korra struggled with.
That's the great thing of, like, being animated, because, like, it doesn't matter what you look like. You're playing a character that's, like, depending.
It only matters if you have the voice acting talent to do the job that you're doing.
I mean, I can appreciate wanting racially diverse casts for, like, live action movies and TV shows, but who gives a shit if the show is, like, animated? I mean, really, who gives a fuck? You can't see the voice actors, you're only interacting with their characters on the screen, so shut the fuck up, you idiot.
Okay, don't swear like that, Mom and Dad might come back. I can't believe we still talk about that.
What?
Our parents. Never mind. Aang likely killed many people before Ozai. It's possible, but the show doesn't dwell on that, so who really cares? When Aang realizes that he will likely need to kill Fire Lord Ozai in order to restore balance to the world, he is upset and not sure what to do. While it makes sense that the series wouldn't want to show a 12-year-old killing somebody, it doesn't make sense that this is even an issue given that Aang probably killed many people. Given some of the ways that he and his friends attacked and defended themselves, it's very unrealistic to think no one ever died. Well, sure, but anyone who died was a bad guy and deserved it. And most of the people that died wasn't even directly by Aang and his friends' hands.
Well, Sokka did kill Combustion Man, technically.
Yeah. Katara's role as Aang's supporter. Whether you are a big fan... Most of the characters that were killed, though, were, like, very minor characters. Like, they didn't even get speaking roles, most of them. Whether you are a big fan of Katara and Aang...
Jet wasn't exactly a minor character.
Well, but Aang and his friends didn't kill him. Wang Feng did.
That's true. But, like, okay, only 4 people that I know of died in the series. Zhao, Jet, Combustion Man.
Oh, come on. Plenty of people died. We just didn't see it. Like, all the,
I think Aang might have killed, like, a bunch of Fire Nation soldiers when he merged with the Ocean Spirit, but other than that, I don't...
Well, the waterbending characters probably killed a bunch of them, too.
I don't think Aang killed anyone, except when he merged with the Ocean Spirit and became Koizilla.
Yeah. Whether you are a big fan of Katara and Aang's relationship or not, there are some things about it that feel a bit dated. Since Aang is the Avatar, Katara's role in his life is very much as a supporter and nurturer. While there's nothing wrong with this, it did often feel like she played more of a stereotypical mothering role that felt a bit traditional at times. Probably because, like this, she's from an Inuit culture that this show is based off of, and they very much are into traditional gender roles for the most part. I mean, they do things that, like, Western people wouldn't do regarding gender, but still, they have the men who hunt and the women who stay behind and take care of the family. Okay?
And, outside of being nurturing to Aang and Sokka and even Toph, Katara wanted to fight. She didn't want to be a healer. Well, she became a healer.
She didn't want to be relegated to healing.
That's true.
I mean, she didn't have a problem doing it. She didn't want to be relegated.
She preferred to be a warrior.
She didn't have a problem with healing. She didn't want to just be a healer. Okay. And anyway, the show made fun of Katara's motherliness.
Yeah.
In the Runaway episode, they missed a great opportunity to have Sokka tell Toph about the time that Katara stole a waterbending scroll. So, like, Katara and Sokka take turns trading the red blanket role, but Sokka should have told Toph about the time Katara did that. That would have been funny.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
The sexist aspects of both of the water tribes. Again, a fucking plot point. Katara's conflict with...
And they're based off Eskimo tribes, and Eskimo tribes are still like that today.
Yeah, but it was a plot point. Katara had that conflict with Master Paku.
Yeah, but Eskimo... Katara and Sokka, the southern and northern water tribe in both Avatar series are based off of Eskimo tribes, and Eskimo tribes even today are like that.
I know, but it was a plot point. Like, right. Katara getting into that waterbending battle with Master Paku just to prove that she could be as good as any of the male students, and she even surpassed them later on. It was a fucking plot point. I mean, they couldn't have done the storylines that they did if they didn't focus on, like, the sexism aspects.
Yeah, combating gender stereotypes.
While drawing on real-world issues like sexism and exploring themes in fiction has its place, there's also something to be said for telling stories that imagine a world free from those constrictions. Well, if the world was free from those constrictions, it wouldn't have had as much drama as it did. It was a fucking plot point, and it was necessary to the show.
You can't engineer out conflict in real life or in fiction, because that's what makes fiction great.
So it was upsetting when both of the water tribes seemed to have rather rigid gender roles and expectations, even going so far as to not train female waterbenders to fight. This is
something that they correct in The Legend of Korra, because
the southern water tribe, they didn't have a problem with female waterbenders fighting. That's what the whole thing with Hama was about. They had plenty of female waterbenders.
Oh, that's true! It was the northern water tribe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
So it was upsetting when both of the water tribes...
So the southern water... You just made a good point, Peter. I was gonna say that both the southern and water tribe corrected their gender stereotypes in The Legend of Korra, and they had... Both tribes had female warriors as well as male healers, and in the last Airbender series, they only had male warriors and female healers, but you raised a good point. 60 fucking years ago before the series, Hama and a bunch of women were taking on the Fire Nation during the Southern Raiders, water tribe raids. So, you're a fucking idiot, you dumbass bitch.
Wow. So it was upsetting.
I hate this crap.
So it was upsetting when both of the water tribes seemed to have rather rigid gender roles. Well,
you need to watch the
southern
show.
tribe The Northern Water Tribe was more rigid than the Southern Tribe.
Yeah, I forgot that the Southern Water Tribe was more progressive. You lady need to rewatch the fucking show.
So it was upsetting when both of the water tribes seemed to have rather rigid gender roles and expectations, even going so far as to not train female waterbenders to fight. This also seems nonsensical given that there have been female avatars who were originally waterbenders. But yeah, like I said,
they had plenty of waterbenders.
Katara and Aang addressed the sexism issue. Katara challenged Master Pakku to a fight. And then he agreed to take her as one of his apprentice students.
Watch the Southern Air Temple again. They had plenty of like female waterbending avatars. They did. We don't know any of them, but they did.
The air nomads also seem segregated on gender. Well, just because they had, like, the males lived at the north and south temples, and the females lived at the eastern and western temples.
As far as the air nomad society, they were going off, like...
Tibetan monks.
Well, the female airbenders were more like nuns.
Well, they have nuns, too, for Tibetan monks.
Yeah.
It's hard to completely say what the air nomad culture and society was like, based off Tibetan monks, so it is a bit difficult to make a total judgment call here, but as we see in the Legend of Korra, men and women in air nomad culture live in separate dormitories. While this isn't that out there by any means, if a society was rigidly divided on gender lines, this seems strange. Well, in the first season episode of The Storm, they do plan on sending Aang to one of the female air temples to complete his training. Because the females primarily lived at the eastern and western temples. The males lived at the southern and northern temples.
Yeah, but Aang would have had his own dormitory away from the women.
Yeah. Given that their teachings seem to center around equality and fairness, it would be a bit odd to focus so much on differences between men and women. Perhaps because the monks wanted to free themselves...
Have you ever heard of the term equal but separate, you moron?
That was primarily focused on segregation towards black people and stuff like that.
But it's true. We're equal, but we're also separate, meaning we're different.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is that considering that the air nomads were monks and were trying to free themselves from worldly desires, that was probably why they kept men and women separate for the most part, because they didn't want them, like, engaging in lust.
And that's something that Catholic monks and nuns do as well.
So, like, when they procreated to, like, when they had sex, they did it to continue their, continue repopulating, but it wasn't done for pleasure. Children are allowed to roam the world alone. Since The Last Airbender is a fantasy show aimed at children, the characters are going to do things that real children and teens wouldn't ever do. It's funny how, like, all these problems she explains away herself while still complaining about it. Like this one, for instance. This is common for the genre and for stories for kids, but it still seems a bit too far-fetched at times. More far-fetched than the gang riding around on a six-legged flying bison. More far-fetched than having dragons roaming the world. More far-fetched than having...
You know, dragons actually did once roam the world. Our world. And they still might.
Okay, but yeah, more far-fetched than, like, giant sea turtles that are big enough to be fucking islands. Come on, lady. The amount of freedom and lack of parental supervision that all the teens in the world have seems really irresponsible.
Also,
well, they couldn't have the show if they had, like, adults supervising them.
Used to be turtles as big as islands in ancient times.
They really couldn't have done, like, all the things that they did if they had adult supervision. Like, sheesh.
Turtles as big as islands really did used to exist.
Ozai's abuse isn't shown to be awful enough.
He burned half of Zuko's face off. Are you fucking kidding?
You didn't burn it off, you scarred it. So once again, since Airbender is a kid's show. It isn't going to be able to explore heavier themes completely, even though it does touch on many rather mature issues.
He gave Zuko a third-degree burn on half of his face.
Yeah. Ozai was an extremely abusive father who burned his own son and was going to murder him. Given how awful this is, it's hard to reconcile the fact that it's in a children's show. Okay, so the subtitle for this
That's why you don't fucking see it.
Okay, this one is weird. The subtitle for this section of the article is that Ozai's abuse isn't shown to be awful enough, but then you comment on how strange that it's even included at all. What you're writing about doesn't make any sense at all.
That's why they cut away when Zuko's face is
Oh, and the worst one, there aren't any LGBT characters. Boo fucking who. You complain about
They include them in the graphic novels, even in...
and they touched upon it at the end of Legend of Korra.
But they include them in the graphic novels, even in the ones with Aang and his friends. Like, there's a story in The Search where, like, a bunch of people are outed as gay. They're not, like, main characters in the graphic novels, but, like... Don't they talk about how, like, Sozin outlawed homosexual relationships?
I don't remember that.
You told me about it. No. You told me about how in one of the graphic novels, Zuko and Aang talk about how Sozin outlawed...
I don't remember that.
I do.
Well, I don't. We'll have to read it again. There aren't any LGBT characters. While there is a lot of diversity in the series as far as race and diverse female characters, there aren't any LGBT characters. Boo fucking who. You were complaining earlier about the lack of adult supervision.
I think in The Search. No, wait. Was that like the first graphic novel, The Search?
I don't think it was in any of the Avatar Airbender comics. It is in the comics for The Legend of Korra.
No, I remember that they...
I don't remember that, okay?
I do.
Whatever. Anyway, you were complaining earlier about there being a lack of adult supervision. So, and also how, like, Ozai burning Zuko's face is way too mature to be shown.
But they didn't show it.
They showed everything up to it. So, how is having LGBT representation not, how does that bypass the guidelines for, maturity for you? Who cares anyway? When shows engage in even straight romance between characters, I find that to be awkward and off-putting and distracting to the show overall at large, and it would be even worse with gay characters, so who really gives a fuck? The creators obviously changed this in Legend of Korra, and especially in the comics books, but it does seem a reflection of the time period that not even any side characters were shown to be anything other than straight. Who really fucking cares? Sexuality in a show like this is not important. It doesn't need to be touched upon.
They never focused on any romantic relationship in The Legend of Korra other than, like, Katara and Aang. Well, okay, they focused on 3. They focused on Katara and Aang.
Sokka and Yue.
Yeah, Sokka and Yue. Sokka and Suki. And Zuko and Mei.
Plus, they had flirting between other characters.
Yes. Like, they teased romances between Katara and Haru, and Katara briefly was Jet's girlfriend.
So anyway, that's the article. I mean, this is
and it's implied that Smellerbee and Longshot were in a relationship.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the... And Smellerbee, they had one part where, like, Iroh mistook her for a boy, and she got pissed off about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, that's the article. This is really fucking stupid. Why do people have to complain about this while acting like they're not even complaining?
Iroh misgendered Smellerbee, and it wasn't like she was identifying as, like, the gender opposite her birth. He mistook her as a boy when she really was a girl, and that was kind of...
That's because she looks like a boy.
Yeah. So he misgendered her. That was funny.
Anyway, tell me what you guys think when you see this. Leave a like and subscribe. See you for another video later on.
Send our rant to that one lady's email. She's an idiot.